Prynawn da pawb, a chroeso i sesiwn Cymraeg ail iaith ar ddydd Mawrth, yr ail o Fawrth. Good afternoon all and welcome to the Welsh Second Language session today on Tuesday, the 2nd of March. I'm going to hand you over now to Miss Childs from e-sgol Gyfun Mountain Ash, who will be delivering and facilitating the session. Bant ti, Miss.
Hello pawb and welcome to the session. So today we are just going over back to basics, the amser presennol, going back to the present tense. Then we're going to go over some proofreading exercises from your Unit 3 exam. This will hopefully be excellent evidence as you remember now, we are using evidence for predicted grades in your schools. Then we'll have a chance of applying our skills from today to some translation tasks. And finally, to finish off the session, we're going to add a legi barnau, revise opinions, and apply these to a reading past paper task. So all of this can be used as evidence today. So in your question and answer section, so in the chat, can you type in any present tense patterns, pattern and an amser presennol in Welsh? So can you remember what I, you, she, he is in Welsh? Can you remember? And so if you read them out to me, if you see any good ones. So I'll give you a clue. I like, we like, I enjoy.
Okay, mae'r cwpl wedi dod mewn. Rydyn ni.
Yeah, rydyn ni, we, brilliant. If you remember, dwi'n or rydwyn, I, my un is he, my hun is she. So well done for that, ardderchog. So here's a reminder of the present tense. If you remember in lessons, maybe gone through rydw, roti, my e, my he, rydw, roti, my e, my he, rydyn ni, rydych chi, my nhw. So there's a few ways of teaching it in lessons. Some of you in some schools use dwi'n. If you notice, these are all in different colours because the more patterns you use and show off to the examiner, your higher marks will be in your writing tasks. If you remember as well, in order to change these patterns to the negative, always think change the R to D and add in them. So did we ddim yn is I am not. Dwyt ti ddim yn, you are not. Dydi e ddim yn, he is not. Dydi hi ddim yn, she is not. Dydi ni ddim yn, we are not. Dydych chi ddim yn, you are not. Dydyn nhw ddim yn, they are not. And remember, chi and ti is anfervial, informal, and chi is fervial, formal. So you might have in the exam coming up, ydych chi'n cytuno, do you agree? That's exactly the same as wyt ti'n cytuno, but it's coming a lot up in the exam. So your first task today, I'm going to give you until about 4 minutes to translate these sentences into Welsh using the present tense patterns. As you can see, my colours change, so these do come progressively more challenging. To help you today, I've put some present tense patterns here for you and some extra words to help. So write on a separate doc, or maybe you have some notes in front of you. I'll give you 4 minutes. I have been told that you can pause these if you need extra time. Type in the chat if you need extra help with anything. So cyfieithwch y brawddegau yma I Gymraeg. Translate the sentences into Welsh. Okay, 3 more minutes. Remember to type in the chat if you have any questions. Remember to use the left-hand side of the board if you need any help with vocab and to type in the chat. Be careful with mutations. Remember there is a treiglad troenol, a nasal mutation after N in Welsh. There's also a treiglad troenol after the, meaning my. Okay, dive in it and then we'll move on. 2 more minutes. Remember, type in the chat if you need any help with anything.
Here we go, some answers coming in now, flying in. So da iawn to those who've responded in the chat, in the Q&A. Mae hi'n mwynhau mynd I cinema gyda'i ffrindiau. So gwaith da. Keep it up.
Ddechog, that's really impressive. So 1 minute, 1 more minute. Remember, typing in the chat if you need any help with vocab. Okay, we're going to symud ymlaen now, move on and go over the atebion. Give yourself a tick at home, so tickiwch. So I live in Wales with my family. Is rydyn byw yn Nghymru gyda fy nheulu. Remember, I did mention that there is a nasal mutation after N and that in Welsh. Then the second one, mae hi'n mwynhau mynd i'r cinema gyda ffrindiau. Dydy e ddim yn chwarae hoci ar y penwythnos. Rydyn ni'n mynd siopa efori. Mae nhw'n gwylio gêm yn y stadium. So this part here, in English, you can shorten down did and did not. You're doing exactly the same with the here. So you are cutting down O because there's a vowel and it changes to apostrophe R. Dydyn nhw ddim yn dawnsio yn y disco yfory. So you're welcome to type in the chat how many you had out of 6. I understand people work at different paces. So as long as you've had the answers correct, da iawn I chi. Well done. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next section. So in your Unit 3 exam, so the first exam you would have been sitting, there's a Prawf-ddarllen exercise, a proofreading exercise. So that means you need to correct 10 errors underlined in a piece of text for 10 marks. So what I would do if you was going to answer this exam question when you return to schools, first of all, number the mistakes 1 to 10, because if you miss out the mistake, then you are giving the marks to the other schools and you won't be able to achieve the levels that you deserve. Then you need to ask yourself questions when you're going through these. So is there a spelling mistake? Is there a punctuation error? So do you need a capital letter, full stop, question mark? Sometimes apostrophe could be missing. Is there something missing from the word? So sometimes they might have a roof missing. So they might give you team and you need to put the roof on team in Welsh. Is there a mutation? So we went over some mutations already. Sound her out in your head. Sometimes achos mae'n ddiflas doesn't make sense. Achos mae'n ddiflas makes sense in your head. Remember, there's a soft mutation, so it flows a bit better. Then they may give you a command word. So a command word is an instruction, and you need to correct the mistakes. You need to take off the last letter and add on WCH. So it could be ysgrifennwch. So instead of ysgrifennu, the word, it would end in a U. If someone is telling you to write something down, you would say ysgrifennwch. So you've taken off the last letter, if in doubt, and adding on WCH. Then finally, does the word make sense in the sentence? So the kids give you a noun, and you need to put in a verb. So for example, they might give you a rydw i'n gwaith, I work, the word work, but then you need the verb rydw i'n gweithio. Or they could say rydw i'n hoffi Cymraeg achos mae'n ddiflas. I like Welsh because it's boring. So you'd have to change boring to a positive adjective. So here's our task now. You need to correct the mistakes to cywirwch y camgymeriadau isod. So I've put in a lot of present tense patterns as we've just gone over those vocabulary. So I would start off numbering these 1 to 10 if you have a copy in front of you. Then I would look for any spelling mistakes, mutations. Maybe they've given you a noun and you need to put in a verb. Maybe there's something missing from a word. Maybe they've given you a positive and you need a negative. Again, it could be a mutation. And maybe they're mixing up the formal and informal. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to try and correct these underlined. Do not just copy the whole text, just write down the answers in front of you. Remember, if you need any help with anything, just type it in the chat. So the first one is a spelling mistake. What is I live in Welsh? I live. The second one is a mutation. The sound out in your head. The third one, they've given a noun, rydw i'n gwaith. That means I work. That's the noun work. So like a job. You need the verb to work. To work. So remember, type in the chat if you need any help with anything. So if we say 2 munud, 2 more minutes. Then remember, mwynhau is spelled incorrectly. So can you remember the spelling of mwynhau? There's something missing from achos mine. Then at the beginning of the session, I said you need to put change the R to something to make things the negative. So how do you make she isn't the negative? So it would have been on the 3rd slide in. Then this one here, they're mixing up the present tense patterns. So we need we are in Cymraeg, we are in Welsh. To give you a clue, read to the end of the sentence and it could help you. Okay, if we say un funud, 1 more minute. Remember for this one here, there's a soft mutation after n for adjectives in Welsh. There was a soft mutation, so what would you change to? Sound right in your head. And again, we need to change this to the negative. We are not. And finally, we're mixing up the positive, the formal and informal questions. So what do you like the one show? So remember, put any questions in the chat. Okay, hopefully you've had plenty of time now. So dyma'r atebion, here are the answers. Remember, ticiwch if you are getting these correct. So rydw i'n, fy nheulu, so remember there's a nasal mutation there. Gweithio is the word to work. Mwynhau is the correct spelling, so M-W-Y-N-H-A-U. There was apostrophe missing from I. Always think back to English. It has an apostrophe, so it is has an apostrophe in English. Dydy hi ddim yn hoffi, so remember the negative always begins with D and is dydy hi ddim yn. Rydyn ni'n is we are, so it mutates to yn Gymraeg, so remember there's a soft mutation, treiglad meddwl. Dydyn ni ddim yn, we are not. And for the final question, you would have had a mark 5 at ydych chi'n or oed ti'n. They both mean do you or are you. A lot of the time the examiners are now using ydych chi'n, but just think it means oed ti'n, so oed ti'n hoffi, oed ti'n mwynhau. Okay, if we move on to our next task now, our next task is cyfieithu, some translation, okay? So this would also come up in your Unit 3 exam, your first exam that you will be completing under exam conditions. So you will need to translate a piece of text into Welsh for 10 marks. So I would first of all break this down into sections, because if you just see a large piece of English, you are going to panic. If you put little dashes in your work, then it'll look in like little small sections and you can break the words down. You need to keep the punctuation, any numbers, any email addresses the same. So if you had 079 456 784, that's a random number in your head. Keep it the same, because if you put it into words and you spelt it incorrectly, then you could get the answers incorrect. Then you need to also be aware of mutations. So read her out in your head. Does this sound right? So it doesn't need to change to yn Gymraeg and the oral instead. Be careful of command words. So remember, if it's telling you to do something, giving an instruction, if in doubt, take off the last letter and add on ugh. And remember, they will ask you to be changing your tenses. We've gone over the present tense today. We are going over future tenses in future sessions. And remember, do not leave any blanks in your answers because we cannot give you the evidence. You're better off writing down a similar word, because now and again they may give you the mark. So for example, if they said, can you translate I like Welsh, and you wrote down rydw i'n mwynhau Welsh, that's I enjoy Welsh, they may not give you the mark, but it's better than leaving it blank. Okay, so your task now, you need to cyfieithu hysbyseb i Gymraeg, so you need to translate the advert into Welsh. Okay, remember sometimes Welsh is backwards, so for the first one, course would come first, then Welsh. To help you, I've put some help here. Remember, numbers stay the same. Any punctuation like question marks, full stops would also stay the same. So I'm going to give you about 4 minutes for this one to complete. Remember, type in the chat if you need any help. The words here are also to help you. So type in the chat if you need any help. And this will also be excellent evidence if we need it for predicted grades.
Just i ddweud, Miss, just to say,
Yeah.
there are a few students commented in the Q&A, which is great. So,
yeah,
like Miss said, if you can translate this and pop it into the chat Q&A, that would be fantastic. Diolch yn fawr.
Yeah. So I have said the word Welsh today. Course in Welsh sounds very similar, but remember course would come first and then the adjective because Welsh is backwards. Do you like, think back to year 7, do you like coffee? Do you like rugby? Learning, have a look in the help box. Dysgu is to learn. And remember, we keep the question mark the same. Okay, so remember 3 minutes now, 3 minutes. Then for come, what do you say when you knock on the door to come into lessons? And I put the word here for you, so dewch. And think of the first letter of the Welsh alphabet. So learn is also in the help box, dysgu. Welsh you should know, hopefully. It's always think back because it's in Welsh. So what comes after acos? If you say rydw i'n hoffi Cymraeg, acos something. Beginning with an M. Okay, if we say un funud now, 1 more minute. So free, have a look at the text box. Great, you should remember from year 7. Educational, have a look on the help box, addysgiadol. And then be careful, we change the tense. So it will, that's the future tense, which we'll be going over in a few lessons time. Bydd yn. Can anyone remember help in Welsh? Very similar to English. With, you should know. Jobs is also up here, Cyfieithu. Then phone, that's a command word. So ffonio is the verb. So you need to take off the last letter and add on ugh. Remember, type in the chat if you can't remember any vocab. And you keep the numbers the same. Okay, if we go through the atebion, you're more than welcome to share your answers in the chat. So type in the chat if you think you know any of the answers. So first answer, cwrs Cymraeg is Welsh course. So remember, Welsh is backwards. Ydych chi'n hoffi dysgu? Do you like learning? You would have also been given a mark if you wrote down wyt ti'n the informal. Remember, put a question mark on the end because it is a question. Then remember, it was a command word. Dewch I mewn is coming in Welsh. You hear that a lot of the time in lessons. Dysgu Cymraeg and learn Welsh. Then mine, remember you use mine after acos mine. Mine am ddim, free, mine wych. Mine addysgiadol, it's educational. Bydd yn helpu gyda swyddi. So helpu is the verb to help in Welsh. And remember, we change the sentences or tenses there. Then ffoniwch, phone, yw neu is or in Welsh, rhys are, and then that's a made up phone number. So that would be out of 10 marks. You could type in how many marks you have achieved. So you would get a mark for phrases really. So maybe this one would be 1 mark. This one would be another 1. Okay, so this is excellent evidence that we need. The main thing is to remember, break it down, write down a similar word if you aren't sure. Make sure you are aware of command words, punctuation, and hopefully we'll be very confident with these. So da iawn everyone. Okay, so now we are going to adolygu barnau yn Gymraeg. So we're going to revise opinions in Welsh. So what I want you to do, for 2 funud, 2 minutes, I want you to connect the opinions in Gymraeg I Saesneg. So connect the opinions from English to Welsh. So what is rydw i'n hoffi in English? If you think rydw i'n hoffi means I live, you would connect it to be. It is not I live. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to connect these. You will need to express your opinion in any speaking task in an extended 20 or 25 mark answer. They may ask you to agree or disagree with something. Are you similar or different to? If you need any help, just type in the chat. And remember, you also need to show off to the examiner, so don't just stick to Rydwin Hoffi. In, say, a 10-mark writing task, 5 marks are based on content, so have you answered the question, and 5 marks are based on mynegi and expression of your writing. So that means, have you changed your sentence patterns? So if you just stick to Rydwin Hoffi, you're not going to get the full marks. So you need to switch your tenses, change your opinion, so use all of these patterns here to help you. Okay, if we say 1 minute now, 1 minute. Remember, type in the chat if you need any help with anything. And what we're going to do in a few minutes is apply these opinions to our reading task. Okay, so if we go through the atebion, you're more than welcome to type in the text and share your answers. So remember, Rydwin means I like. Dydw i ddim yn hoffi means I don't like. Rydwin mwynhau, I enjoy. Rydwin caru. Some schools use Rydwin dwylio, which is fine. So that means I love. Rydw i wrth fy modd, I really love. Some people say I'm in my element id, which is also fine. Mae'n gas gyda fi, I really hate. Dydw i ddim yn mwynhau, I don't enjoy. These few, last few in purple are coming up all the time in the exam. So I might ask you, ydych chi'n cytuno? Do you agree? So you need to say, rydw i'n cytuno, rydw i'n anghytuno. In your speaking, you need to agree and disagree with statements, maybe facts from a video. So you need to make sure you are doing that. Rydw i'n debyg and wahanol, a lot of the time is asking how are these two people similar or different to in the exam. Yn fy marni, that's an idiom. If you notice, I have changed the colour, so they do progressively become more challenging. And remember, you need to show off all of these patterns to the examiner in order to get the higher levels. Okay, so write in the chat how many you had out mas o 12, how many did you have out of 12? So Diane ardderchog pawb. So we're going to move on to our final task of today. So this is a past paper from a specimen paper in the WJEC. And what you need to do is apply the opinions in order to answer this task. So my Mr Formula and poblogaidd iawn a dros y wlad. So Mr Formula is a famous DJ. And he is very popular across the country. It says, darllenwch ychydig amdano isod, read a little bit about him, and atebwch y cwestiynau. So answer the questions. So you need to be aware, a lot of the questions are in Welsh only. So you need to be aware of the key question words, which I put here. So part 1 is which one? Ticioch is tick. So if you accidentally put a cross, the exam board would not give you the marks for your evidence. So beth is what, barn opinion, pynciau subjects, cywir, correct, a box priodol is relevant box, and rhoich is put. Okay, so here's the text that you've been given. You need to skim and scan for the correct answers. So first of all, beth oedd barn Ed am y pynciau yma? What was Ed's opinion about these subjects? So you need to tick the correct answer. So you need to look in the text for his opinion about mathematics. So you need to find mathematics in the text. And he says, mae'n gas gen i. So that's a bit like mae'n gas gyda fi, which we just went over. So this picture of a smiley face would be he loves, fy hoff, my favourite, rydw i'n caru. This one here would be iawn, okay, rydw i'n hoffi. And this one would be rydw i'n casau, mae'n gas gyda fi, I hate. So you need to tick 3 pictures which represents his opinion of different subjects. So look for Celf, look for opinion, and then tick the picture of the face. Cerddoriaeth is music, so look for music in the text and tick the correct answer. Then these ones here, be careful, it is 2 marks, but it says pa un sy'n gywir. Which one is correct? Again, it says roich tick, put a tick. So you need to decide which statement is true. If it's in the text, then it's true. If it's not in the text, then it's false. And then again, which one is true? So if you tick 2 statements, then you would not get the mark for evidence. So if I give you about 3 minutes to complete this. Remember, type in the chat if you need any help. Be careful of the instructions. It's saying ticioch, so you need to tick throughout. So I will translate the text for you as we go along. Shemai, Ed ydw i, neu Mr. Formula I llawer o pobl. Hello, I'm Ed Holden, or known as Mr. Formula to everyone. Ces I fynennu yn y Gogledd. I was born in the North Wales. Es I ysgol Sir Thomas Jones. So you went to Sir Thomas Jones School in North Wales. Roedd ffrindiau da gen I yn yr ysgol a gwersi cyfroedd. So I had lots of good friends in school and exciting lessons fel cerddoriaeth a chwaraeon, like music and sport. Beth bynnag, however, roedd yn gas gen I wersi fel Ffrangeg a mathematig. However, I really hated subjects like French and maths. So you need to think mathematic, which one would you tick? Which one is mae'n gas gen I? Then next one, roedd celf yn iawn. So art was okay. So which one is okay? Is it this face, or this face? Ond cerddoriaeth oedd fy hoff bwnc. But music was my favourite subject. So which face would be favourite? Heddiw, dwi'n rapio a beatboxio o gwmpas Prydain. So today I rap and beatbox across Britain. My bywyd yn great. Life is great. So around Britain and Cymru unig in Wales only is Prydain and Hymru a Lloegr and Hymru a Ffrainc. So which of the countries are in Britain, basically? And then you need to check which of these are in the text. So if we say un funud now, 1 more minute. And then we'll go through the answers. Okay, so if we go through the atebion, so the first one, remember he said mae'n gas gen I, so that's quite formal Welsh. It means I really hate, so mae'n gas gyda fi, so you tick the sad face. Celf yn iawn, art was okay, and fy hoff bwnc ydy cerddoriaeth. My favourite subject was music. The next, this one here, the last one. So my ffrindiau ysgol bendigedig. So the friends in school were my roedd ffrindiau da gen I. I have good friends. And finally, yn Nghymru a Lloegr. So Britain and Prydain, in Britain, there is Cymru, Wales and England. So the exam board at the moment are throwing in some geographical skills in there. So you need, the exam board would have expected you to know where which countries were in Britain, which is Wales and England. So give yourself a mark at Master Cyfieithu out of 7, pop it in the chat. So hopefully you're more confident with applying your present tense and opinion skills to some sort of reading tasks. So before you finish, I've created a revision page to revise after this session. I know these PowerPoints are being sent out. So here's a copy of the present tense. Here are some lovely revision games that you can play. And Quizlet is a bit like notes, so it'll flash up the English and you need to remember the Welsh, or you can play some games there. And remember, these changing letters, because you need to show off to the examiner the different patterns. Remember, in the positive is usually rydw or my. Negative, you usually change the patterns to D and add in them. To create a question, you need to take off the R most of the time. So remember, our next session is Tuesday next week. So dydd Mawrth the 9th of March, or Mawrth. It is at 4:30, hanner awr wedi 4, 10 munud wedi 5, and we'll be going over yr amser gorffennol, the past tense. So we have about 2 minutes left. So diolch i chi for tuning up to the session. Thank you very much. I'll give you a time for questions. Can anyone pop in any questions that they've had from the session in the question and answer box?